So next, I want to take us on, and I know, so I sat in a little bit on these guys' conversation earlier, and the marketing piece was coming up time and again, because actually it's the thing that drives most of the goals, isn't it? Let's face it, if it's a business-related goal that's anything to do with growth, it's almost certainly delivered by the marketing effort. And through the Trusted Team, we've spent a lot of time thinking about different ways. I mean, the fact that Bhavesh has written his book, almost certainly because we've been talking about it within the workshops and in our conversations, and it's absolutely brilliant you've done that, because this is going to be a great stepping stone, a great way, a great opportunity to use that to put you out there as the expert and differentiate yourself from the clients. So what I wanted to do was
There might only be two financial advisors who have a book out now.
Yeah, excellent. There might be a couple of others as well, but we don't need to worry about them. So what I wanted to do was, for those people that are newer to the Trusted Team, it's an opportunity to kind of go back and look high level at some of the things that we've done previously and identify the specific tools that you can dive into that will most help you over the course of this year and will most help you achieve the goals that you want to hit. And then for those opportunities to go back and go, okay, yeah, we did do that concept 2 years ago, but actually I really need to go through it again, because it's going to be a ideal client magnet is all about. And it was also a good opportunity for me to really think back to, well, how does the different things that we've done over this period of time all fit together? And because it all fits into the Better Future framework, but how does it all sit together as one sort of cohesive concept? And that's where this whole concept of the magnet comes in, because really what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a marketing machine that ultimately just consistently delivers our ideal clients to our doorstep while we sleep. That's really the key, isn't it? Amy was talking about the follow-up sequences that we create within the Trusted Team for different types of prospects and our ideal clients. So, once you've got contact with somebody once, you've got to build a process so that you're pestering them repeatedly multiple times. You're coming back, because just because you meet somebody, like I met a whole 60 entrepreneurs last week at the Founders Club, and I spoke to them at the Founders Club on that day. And that doesn't mean that it's the right time for every one of those at that workshop to do what we're offering. So if we keep in touch with them through automated processes at the time at which it is actually, all right, okay, I now need this, the person that is dropping into their inbox or dropping onto their social media feed and the person they've already built up trust with is the person that they're going to get in contact with, which is exactly the same with the financial planning. You position yourself as the expert. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to build this machine that delivers our ideal clients to us. And the starting point of that has to be the message that we send out there. And one of the things that we so when in the first Trusted Team workshop, I told my story. Why am I stood here doing this within the Trusted Team? Where have I come from to get to this point? And I tell the story of my time, like my time that was a bit like being in the film The Wolf of Wall Street. And I used to tell this story, and obviously there's different versions of this story, and I'll come back to this in a minute. But the reason I used to tell the story a lot when I was running Efficient Portfolio is because it's my why. I fell into this business, or fell into this sector, and I loved helping people save for their future and protect their money and minimize tax, grow their money to the best it could be. But I hated the fact that it was all commission hungry selling and pushing products down people's throats they didn't need. And that's why I set up Efficient Portfolio. And the more I can get out my why, the better the business will be, because it's the why that people buy into. It's why Simon Sinek has a book, one of the best marketing books you'll ever read, called Start With Why. Because if you start with why in anything with regards to your marketing, and that is also, when you're recruiting, your marketing. So for example, we used to have, once upon a time, we put an advert out for a job, and we had the job description as the ad. We got 2 or 3 applicants, and it wasn't good enough applicants. So we then put exactly the same ad out but we put our why statement, which was something along the lines of creating a better future through financial planning. So we just put that why statement at the top, then exactly the same ad. We got, by a factor of 10, way more applicants because we started with why. Same is the case with your marketing. And every time I went into, like if I was on LBC radio or in a conversation with somebody and I was wanting to talk about the dream retirement, I'd start with, well, why did I write the dream retirement? Well, it's because I was listening to and it's not why I wrote a book. It's why the book was The Dream Retirement. I was listening to the Freakonomics podcast, and they were talking about a study about how blue-collar workers, they did this study on whether retirement was good for your health. And they found that actually, whilst we crave it, early retirement actually reduces our life expectancy. It doesn't increase it, it reduces it. It's like, well, that's stupid. Because you shouldn't be, you're living this lovely life of leisure and you've got the time to go to the gym and all that sort of stuff, except it kills you. Because in retirement, every day is a Saturday. There's no reason not to have that glass of wine, that pizza, etc., etc. And it was that, hearing that, I was like, well, this is wrong, isn't it? It should be the opposite to this, but it's not. And there's multiple studies. It's actually Professor Joseph Zeilermuller's research on blue-collar workers in Switzerland that I specifically focused on. That's what triggered it, but actually when you dig into it, there's a lot of research. So when I was writing my book, when I decided, every time I wanted to explain why I wrote The Dream Retirement, I told that story. That was the story I told. It was my why. And then people go, okay, I buy into that. Now I want to understand the dream retirement. Now I understand why you wrote The Dream Retirement. So really understanding your why is vital. And it's really, really compelling in the world of marketing. So if you take the amazing Braemont watches, they created Braemont as two brothers. I won't go through the whole story now, but basically Braemont, award-winning watches, the only kind of non-Swiss company to break into the really high-end watch space in the last sort of couple of decades. And basically two sons spent their youth hanging out with their dad, fixing clocks and also flying planes. And rather sadly, the dad was killed in a flight accident that nearly killed one of his sons, but didn't. So the edge was taken off flying, but they went back to this kind of clockmaking history with their dad, and as a result, they created Braemont watches. And they tell the story of their dad and the crash and all of that sort of stuff in the background to Braemont. But every watch that they create has a story. So they have the MB1, which stands for Martin Baker. You're only allowed to buy this watch if you've ejected out of a Martin Baker ejector seat. Niche market, but guess what? They went from selling for like a few £1,000s in the shops to going secondhand for $120,000 because they're super niche and they're therefore super rare. So it's really about understanding your why. And there's the whole analogy of, sell the drill, not the hole. Actually, who wants a drill? You want a hole in the wall. You want you don't sell the drill, sell the hole. But nobody wants a hole in the wall either, do they? They want some beautiful shelves. And why do they want those beautiful shelves? Because they want the backdrop to zoom to look really clever because they've got books lined up or whatever it is. You've got to really get to the root of the why to have effective marketing. Why do we do what we do? And if you want to kind of dive deeper into that, the exercise that we did ages ago in workshop 1 was the why beneath. Because the more times you can get your why in, and it could even be that your why statement is just in your email signature or in the email signature of everyone in your team. What is it that we can do to get our why out there more often? That's really what it's all about. And if you do that, your marketing, your recruitment, everything will become so much more powerful. And that kind of leads nicely into the power of stories. So stories we all know that facts tell, stories sell. The more opportunity we can get storytelling into everything that we do as a business, the more powerful we'll be. Whether it's social media for the hub and spoke, whether it's the stories of success cases within the trusted team, everything we do around stories will help us because it's so much more engaging. It's what people remember. And if the reason there's a toy horse on the screen is because there was a load of guys that wanted to study the power of stories. So they went and bought a load of random objects off eBay, one of which was a toy horse. So they bought the toy horse for $1. They relisted it immediately on eBay, but they told a story with it. Like, oh, I'm selling this because it was my daughter's, but she's now flown them there. She's gone off to university and I'm clearing out the house. Exactly the same toy. Only difference was they added a story. It sold for $102. They turned, I'm just going to look at the stats here. Oh, there was a paper globe. They did exactly the same for, bought it for $1.59, sold it for $197. They spent $250 on different things. And when they resold them all with stories added, they made $8,000. I told Bronwyn this, by the way. So my dad was like, I've got this old golf trolley. Would you mind selling it? Bronwyn's like, yeah, no, I've heard the story thing. I'll sell that. So I look on eBay and Bronwyn's gone, my granddad just died. And I'm not sure that's quite what it was meaning. She did sell the golf trolley. I made her change the description to that granddad hadn't died. But if you want to understand the power of storytelling, there's an amazing book called Talk Like TED. And it actually, they studied the top TED Talks. So Brian Stevenson's TED Talk is one of the best TED Talks you can watch. And it's a brilliant example of the best framework for a TED Talk, or a keynote talk, in fact. And basically, the concept, so a TED Talk is roughly 18 minutes long. 18 to 20 minutes is the typical TED Talk. And all of the successful TED Talks are based around 3 stories. Story takes roughly 6 minutes. They have a minute of kind of stats and facts to tick the box for the sciencey people, and a minute of kind of motivation takeaway type stuff, times 3. Story, few specifics, and then a takeaway. That is all of the top TED Talks of all time worked on that principle.
Do they all finish at the end and making you feel so?
Yes, there's actually exactly, and that's why stories are so powerful.
They connect emotionally.
Exactly, and because people don't remember what you told them, they remember how you made them feel, and it's stories that make you feel.
Repeat his name.
Brian Stevenson. He tells this really lovely story of he's a top lawyer. It's a great TED Talk. So the more opportunity we can get stories into everything we do, our marketing, our messages, our using case studies, all of that sort of stuff is incredibly powerful. And there's loads of ways that we can make that more impactful. Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk, again, one of the top TED Talks of all time. He's brilliant at bringing humor into stories. Again, it makes you feel, it's therefore engaging. So anytime you can bring humor in, if you get people kind of feeling emotional with those stories, you're going to get more reaction. You can use props within it. But again, it comes back to how you make people feel. So Bill Gates did a talk where he wanted to talk about malaria. So at the start of the talk, he lifted a glass, like whatever a glass thing is, and he told, yeah, that's it. And he told the audience that he'd just released 3 malaria-carrying mosquitoes into the auditorium. The engagement of the audience was like off the chart, because suddenly they're all on hyper alert. Great way of making a really impactful story. Amazon, pardon? And upsetting him. He didn't know there was no mozzies in the jar. Or if they were, I dare say they didn't have malaria. Amazon tell a great story about how obviously Amazon now bought Whole Foods, but the original Whole Foods was a single store, and it got really badly damaged from some flooding, and it was actually going to have to close. And the whole community said, no, we actually love Whole Foods. So the whole community got together and basically rebuilt the store and repaired it all so they could continue. So Whole Food, that story, that origin story, gets used time and again within Amazon's marketing. And, it's really like understanding, I know we've talked a bit about books today, but having like key stories that segue into different topics. So for example, I used my why story for the dream retirement, but I also, you want a story that leads into everything that you do. So every book that you write or every kind of thing that you have within your business, you want a kind of pre-planned story so that you can just go, like, for example, I haven't done it yet, but what I want to do is go back to all the different trusted team tools and pick out a story, because there's always stories in my presentation, pick out a single story. So that if somebody, let's say on the radio, said, what's the principles of, or something that leads me on to thinking about referrals, start by telling the story, and then that story ends up with, the trusted team, we have the referral revolution that helps people get more referrals. So identifying key stories that are a segue into what you want to talk about is really powerful. And by the way, that's the chief, which some of you will remember the story of. And storytelling can be done by your clients on your behalf. So great, having video testimonials is obviously incredibly powerful. If you don't have video testimonials on your website, you really just must. It's an absolute, because people will engage in it far more. And obviously then you can share it on your socials as well. I'm not going to share Jeremy's story. And so if you want to explore this whole story principle more, one of the exercises that you should be going back to is the story playbook. Because if you build up this story playbook, it's a really powerful armory, so that when you come to write your next book, or you come to write a blog article, or you come to want to write an introduction to something or explain something, every time you write a story, or every time you think of a story that you like telling down the pub because everybody laughs and it always makes a good bit of banter, as long as it doesn't make you look unprofessional, it can make you look stupid but not unprofessional. Put it in a story playbook, and every time you write up a story for anything, or you tell a story in this environment and you get the transcript from it, that goes into the story playbook. Because what becomes then really powerful is your team can start using those stories. The more you share your stories with the team, and the more you get and actually you want to do an exercise with your team to get the stories out of them, because that way all of the people in the business are starting to go, oh, okay, I didn't know, I work in finance, I never speak to a client, but actually when I hear the amazing stories that we're creating within our business from like financial planning or from coaching or whatever it is, I feel much more compelled to be a brilliant finance manager within the business. So the story playbook is a tool to go back to. And the most important story that you need to build is your own story. If you haven't refined your own story, you need to be, you need to be kind of making sure that you're absolutely clear on your origin story. So that if I said to any one of you, in 5 minutes time, you're going to step onto a stage in front of 10,000 of your ideal clients, and you've got to tell them why you're doing what you do, you should absolutely know that story. And it shouldn't matter whether you've got 30 seconds or 30 minutes to tell it. You should know the exact structure of the story you're telling, so that it positions you as the expert in front of your ideal clients. And the ideal story is setting the scene. So like the reason this is all The Lion King is because actually it's a perfect example, but actually you can look at almost any film and see that it's broken down into this story framework. So you set the scene, you create empathy with the characters, and then there needs to be a loss at the end of Act 1. So our ideal story has 3 acts. So we've got this loss at the end of Act 1 of, and so when I tell my story, it's like, well, I joined the world of financial services and it was all going really well in the sense that I loved helping people, but actually I realized I hated the sector because it was all commission hungry. This is my financial planning version of the story. Then you need Act 2 is about kind of that struggle to find different, the true path. So it's about, you need a guru in there. You need guidance, you need so for me, that's Tony Robbins is my guru. That struggle of I've set up my own business to do the best financial planning possible, but I'm 3 stone overweight, I'm working every hour God sends, the business okay, but not thriving, all of that kind of stuff. And the guru is then what leads you into Act 3, which is your transformation. The transformation is then you going, so as a result, I reorganized my work-life balance, started taking 3 months off like my Uncle Bill, etc., reorganized the business, got my health back in shape. And as a result, I ended up with this position here. And it's by that you end up with this. As a result, I'm the expert in this. And it's this lovely story that puts you as the expert for your ideal clients. So you tell that story to your ideal clients, which is why you might need more if you've got more than one ideal client, you may have a slightly different version of this story. So, for example, when I started getting to business coaching, Uncle Bill featured in Act 1 and was the end to Act 1, whereas he never featured in the financial planning version. But you must have your story nailed down. There's the full breakdown. And if you want to go through that, the expert story is the way to and you want to just think about, well, where could that story end up? Where should it be? There's different types of stories. So there's a founder story, which is essentially that. You might have a different story to describe your values as a business. You might have a different story to describe the purpose of the business. And you might have customer stories like the case studies that we looked at. But if you want to dive into that piece deeper, the expert story is the best place to go to, because it'll help you really refine what that story looks like. And then think about, well, where is it? Where should we be? For example, I don't know why, because I've said this like 3 times in a workshop, but we don't have my expert story on the Trusted Team website. And I'm like, well, why would we not do that? Well, it was when we had Efficient Portfolios website, it was probably it was the top 3 pages one was the team, one was the client case studies, and one was my story. They were the top 3 pages for the EP website. For Trusted Team, it's not there. It should be there. So we're not eating our own dog food, which is another Silicon Valley term, whether you like it or not. So the expert story is what you'd want to come back to if you haven't refined what your story looks like. So that was the message. We're trying to get the message out of what we're doing within the business. And there's obviously a number of tools that we can use for that. The next thing we really need to do is think about, well, who is our audience? Who are our ideal clients? Who should we be targeting? It's no good building a system that brings this lovely, great flow of people into your business that are a wrong fit. They've got to be the ideal clients. And I can't remember when I told you this story, but there's a story of the dentist Paddy Lund. So Paddy Lund is an Australian dentist. Have you ever read any of Paddy Lund's books? Yeah, really brilliant guy. So he was stood on Sydney Harbour Bridge, ready to jump off to take his own life because he was so sick of his business. And he decided, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go back to my office and I'm going to write a letter. And that letter said, basically, I've just been stood on Sydney Harbour Bridge. I was about to take my own life because of where this business has taken me to. I decided I'm not going to do that. And then the letter finished in 2 different ways. So for 95% of his clients, he finished that letter with, and here's a list of 5 dental practices in Sydney. Please take your business to them going forward. You're no longer a client of ours. To 5% of his clients, he said, you are one of the types of clients that we want in this practice going forward. And therefore, we just wanted to let you know that we're super grateful of having you as a client, and we want to build our client around you, our business around you. And he ends up speaking on the stage all around the world as an advocate of how to build an amazing practice. They have this dental practice where you leave with dental buns. So they're like non-sugary treats that you leave with, and everyone's like, oh, what are you eating? Oh, well, my dentist gives me these lovely dental buns. And they have like an amazing Italian coffee machine that they shipped in, especially so you get great coffee when you go there. Have a client relationship manager, all of that stuff. He's renowned for that now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and really strong coffee. So it's so important that we identify who our ideal clients are and we attract our ideal clients as opposed to just anyone. It doesn't mean that you necessarily kick the others out, but you might have a completely different offering for them. Like the hub and spoke, retired people are probably not our ideal client. It doesn't mean that we refuse to serve them coffee, but we wouldn't want to be marketing to them to bring more retired people into the hub and spoke. And then you've got to think, well, okay, how do we refine our marketing based on our ideal clients? And you might have more than one ideal client. So you'll notice that I wrote 4 books. We concluded we had 3 ideal clients and 1 future ideal client. So we had our ideal clients were the people in the lead up to retirement, and that was why I wrote the Dream Retirement. The people that were post-retirement, that's why I wrote the Life Legacy Gift. The entrepreneurs, Entrepreneurial Happiness. And then the future clients were the young people that were likely to become our ideal clients in the future. And that's why we wrote Smart Money. So for every one of our ideal clients, we had different an attraction marketing device, which I'll come back to. But it's really about saying, well, okay, how do we have things, those books we would give away. Almost all of the books that we got rid of weren't through selling, that we were giving them, but we were giving them to our ideal clients. You won't make any money selling books, but you'll make money from the books, from the people that you give books to, if you do it right. And so who was our ideal client? Well, at Efficient Portfolio, we put a lot of thought into this. We concluded that firstly, they were in Rutland. They obviously had to have a certain level of wealth. We had an age category, which I think, so for the retirement guys, it was 55 to 65. They typically liked golf. They were usually a member of Luffenham Heath. They usually drove a Range Rover. They usually read the Telegraph, and they holidayed in South Africa. So there's no surprise that we wrote a blog article on how to have an amazing trip to South Africa, because what we're hoping is our ideal clients see that and then they realize actually there's a whole load of other stuff going on. Or an ideal client is chatting to another client about a trip to South Africa, and he's like, oh, well, here's an article on how to make an incredible trip to South Africa. I sent that out so many times to people. We also wrote one on hay fever, because I'd struggled with hay fever. And I mean, it's not an ideal client thing, but the number of times I would send that article to people about how to beat hay fever without the drugs. And then it's just a segue into, oh, hang on, this is a financial planning film. What the hell are they talking about hay fever for? But if we know that our ideal client is a member at Luffenham Heath, we can sponsor an event at Luffenham Heath. Oh, and guess what? We gave them all a free copy of The Dream Retirement when we did. If we know that they like golf, we can target them more specifically within our social media marketing, and we can write articles on the top bucket list courses to play in Europe, which we did, top bucket list courses in the UK. The more you know about these ideal clients, if we want to build a partnership, we might want to build a partnership with a firm that, like a garage that sells Range Rovers, which we did talk about. It never ended up coming to fruition, but we talked about doing that because we knew that our ideal clients were hanging out at the Range Rover garage and vice versa. And so once we've really dialed down what those ideal clients look like, we can then target them with specific marketing ideas for each. So for the Dream Retirement market, we had the book, obviously, as we shared. We had a marketing event that we would invite them to, which was called the Dream Retirement Dinner. We'd get a private chef in here. We'd all be sitting around having a lovely dinner here. We had the 2-minute retirement plan, a digital tool that people could go through. So we're using essentially different push-pull attraction marketing devices to target those specific people. We had the same for the post-retirement market, a book, a digital tool, an event. We had the same for the entrepreneurial market. Notice that one was better targeted for a breakfast, one was better targeted for lunch, one was better targeted for dinner, because that's the age categories that they were at. Like I said, we sponsored an event. So could you be sponsoring an event where your ideal clients hang out? So we did that at Luffenham. We also organised our own events, but I'll come on to that. But really, once you've identified what your ideal client looks like, you can start to really drill down onto, well, what's going to attract them and where do they hang out? And the ideal client niche is the tool that we use to help dial into that. So if that's something that you think we really need to kind of be much more specific on, what does our ideal client look like? I know this is a conversation we had right at the start, wasn't it? And if you can really get that down, you can target them so much better. And then it's really about understanding them, getting to the heart of their story, really what's important to them. So a story that I tell quite often is the story of when Sir Alex Ferguson tried to sign Gaza from Newcastle United. So Sir Alex Ferguson, leading Manchester United, the top team in the UK at the time, and he was desperate to sign Gaza, the up-and-coming amazing footballer from Newcastle, and he threw everything at it. He took Bobby Charlton to the recruitment meeting. He was willing to pay whatever he needed to pay to get Gaza to play for Manchester United. but Gazza never played for Manchester United. Gazza signed for Spurs. And the reason that Gazza signed for Spurs is because Spurs offered to buy his mum a house in Sunderland. Now, if Sir Alex Ferguson had known that a house in Sunderland would have been the deal clincher that got Gazza to sign for Manchester United, would he have offered to buy his mum a house in Sunderland? Of course he would. It would have been a fraction of the amount of money that they were talking about. But he never asked. And if you read Sir Alex Ferguson's book, it really grated on him. But he was like, I just never asked the question. So the point is, once you really know your ideal client, that's when you then need to really get into their SWOT analysis. So their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities, their threats. And it's really their opportunities and threats. Because if you're doing a SWOT analysis for each and every one of your ideal clients, and you can do this retrospectively, you can look at your existing client base and go, okay, so who are our ideal clients that we already have? What are their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And if you do that, guess what? You'll start to see a pattern. Bless you. You'll see a pattern. You'll go, oh, right, yeah. All of our ideal clients had these opportunities and these threats. So then when you come to build everything to do with your marketing, it's got to talk to those specific things. So it's no surprise that when I started talking about retirement, it was the reason I wrote The Dream Retirement, it wasn't just about money. It was about how you spend your time in retirement and how you stay fit and healthy. It's because when I look back at all the people I'd spoken to in the lead up to retirement, that was the thing. Those were the things they worried about. Yes, they wanted enough money to sleep at night, but they wanted enough purpose to get up in the morning and the health and well-being to be able to enjoy it. And I knew that was there. And as many people read The Dream Retirement for those two other reasons as they read it for the financial reasons. But of course, I knew what they needed from a financial point of view, so I put that in with what they wanted. So the more we can drill down into that strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat for that ideal client, the more we can tailor it specifically to what they, and we've talked about this before, but I remember clicking on an article, it was this time a year ago or a month and a year ago, and I was looking at different marketing companies that could help a coaching business. And of course, once I clicked on one on Instagram, just got freaking hundreds of them all over Christmas. Every other Instagram post was, are you a coach looking for more leads? Like, well, actually, yes, I am. I'll book a call. Are you a coach? Well, yes. I came back first week of January. I got like 5 calls with marketing companies that are all approaching coaches because they called me out. They knew exactly who I was and what I wanted and what my pain point was, what my opportunities, what my threats were. And they told me, and I went, yes, that's me. Count me in. I'll opt in. And that's what we're always trying to do. So the more you know your ideal client and the more you know their opportunities and threats, the more you build your marketing around that. So the ideal client SWOT will help you drill into that. And just before we break for lunch, I'm going to do one more piece of this content. And that is the 6 human needs. So 6 human needs, Tony Robbins' take on Maslow's human needs. It was kind of like the enhancement of Maslow's human needs. But those 6 human needs are the core things that we need to tick to be happy. And the first 4 are our core needs. So the first 4 are, we need certainty. So if we think about that in a business sense, from an entrepreneurial point of view, we need certainty, i.e. we need to know that our business is achieving what it needs to achieve. It needs to be delivering us the amount of money or the profit or the success that it needs. And if we don't have certainty, we get really stressed about it. But equally, we need uncertainty or variety. If everything is just too predictable, it becomes truly boring. So we need variety and certainty. We need significance. We need to know, why business owners struggle in retirement. It's why people in high-powered jobs, like particularly the forces, really struggle mentally in retirement because suddenly they lose all of their significance because now they're just somebody that's retired as opposed to major so-and-so or general so-and-so or superintendent so-and-so. They've lost their significance because it was linked to their job. So we need significance, we need to feel significant, and we need connection or love. Connection is to other people, and I'm going to come back to connection when I talk about Land's End to John Groats later on. So those are our 4 core human needs. But to be truly happy, we need to tick 2 more human needs. First is growth. If we're not growing, we're dying. If we want to be, if we're not moving forward, we're moving backwards. So we need to be growing and feeling like we're getting better and better. and we need to be making contribution. So if we really want to be truly happy, we need to be feeling like we're making a difference to others, not just ourselves. And Tony always says, if any activity ticks 3 of your human needs, you'll become addicted to it. Now that could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. It doesn't matter. It'll just be if an activity. So, for example, if holding somebody up at gunpoint, does it give you significance? Absolutely. Does it create a whole lot of variety and crazy different outcomes? Absolutely. Are you making money out of it? Are you growing? Are you somehow connecting with somebody? Yes. So actually holding a gun in somebody's face, you can see why. But if you've done it once, it might become an addictive thing because it's satisfying your human needs. Exercise also does the same, particularly if you feel like you're developing and growing. So one of the reasons I got hooked on cycling was because I was listening to books at the same time. So not only was I growing physically stronger, but I was learning on the journey as well, because it was a time to listen to more books. So it definitely gave me variety. It gave me significance because suddenly I was doing 100-mile bike rides and 142-mile bike rides and then Ironmans. And actually, often I was doing it for charity, so I got contribution. That is why I got hooked on this stuff. So when we really understand our human needs, the principle of human needs, we can apply it in 3 ways, really. We can apply it to ourselves. So we did the human needs assessment for you guys. Are you satisfying all of your 6 human needs? And which ones are you satisfying the least? And how can you change your life based on that? If you haven't done that exercise, I really encourage you to do that. You can do it for your team. Get your team to think about, well, okay. So for example, in a startup, like Chloe's just come into a very new business. Chloe might be like sitting in the leadership meeting going, holy crap, I've lost all certainty because this is a brand new business and it's all really scary. So we might be going, well, okay, how can we give more certainty to this business and to Chloe based on that, which hopefully we did in the leadership meeting. And then, of course, to our ideal clients. So how do we think about our clients' human needs and how do we talk to that? So if our clients, like from a financial planning point of view, how do we create more certainty around retirement? Well, okay, well, that's a lifetime cash flow forecast, isn't it? If we give them a lifetime cash flow forecast, they can see with certainty that they're on track to have enough money to live for the rest of their life. How do we give them variety? Well, that's building in the bucket list into retirement. How do we give them growth? Well, that's the investment piece, isn't it? Can we encourage them to give money to charity as part of their wealth planning or to their next generation? Well, that's contribution. If we start talking to them about these different things, and everyone will have a predominant human need. So the more we can talk about the different human needs, so if you're writing a piece of marketing content, for example, you want to tick all 6 human needs in there, because then everyone that's reading it will buy into one of those human needs more than the other. So if you want to think about how you do that, the ideal client needs assessment is really the exercise to go through, because that will have you drilling down into, well, what are the key human needs for these clients, these ideal clients, and how do we then talk to that time and time again? How do we give them certainty around this? How do we give them variety and fun and spice because of this? How do we create connection as a result of this? How do we create significance as a result of this? How do we give them growth as a result of this? How do we give them contribution as a result of this? If you do all of that, you'll be talking to all of the different audiences that are out there. I'm going to pause. We're at the halfway. No, we're not even halfway through the ideal client magnet. Jesus. So we'll pause for lunch. Then we're going to go back to finish this off, and also then get you really building a marketing plan based on what we've summarized here. So we'll break for lunch until 1:15, and that'll give us 45 minutes, a little bit less than 45 minutes before we have Chris speaking to us at 2. Lunch will be put out shortly. Hopefully lunch is sitting here ready. What are you doing, Charlotte? Are you bringing lunch in? Brilliant. So we'll sit and have some lunch and chat over. Well, thank you. Thought I had, but apparently I haven't. There we go. It is now. Well spotted. Also, building a community around your businesses. People love to be in a tribe. So if you can build a community around that, whether that's events like this, whether that's golf days, they actually want to be part of a community. They want to see that other people are benefiting. It never ceased to amaze me how happy EP clients were to see that they were part of a much bigger group of EP clients. And so therefore you've got to build a process, a proper referral process, so that you know that it happens every time. And whether that's right, after they sign up for this bit, they get sent this book. After they do this, they get sent this email. After they get this, they get given this. At this meeting, we always mention this. Having a clear referral process is really the key. You've also got to know what's in it for them and the person that they're referring to. So you really want them to think about, if somebody's going to refer you to a client, they've got to know, well, why is it in their interests and why is it in the interests of the person that they're referring in? So one of the best referral schemes I ever saw was for a laser eye company. And if you referred somebody in, you got a discount or a credit, and they got a discount off their eye treatment. Dropbox, a great example. You know, the person that you refer in gets a free account, an extra 250 meg, and the person that referred gets an extra 250 meg. What's in it for the referee? What's in it for the referrer? So you build a process around really knowing that, and just make it really easy for people to refer. So, you know, you can give out like referral cards, QR codes to people to scan and refer. Just make it really, really simple, and then be ready to receive. And so one of the really easy ways that we used to give people to was the referral, the dream retirement dinner. So we'd say to clients, like, if you know somebody that's coming up to retirement, why don't you send them, and we'll send them an invite to the dream retirement dinner. But then what was in it for them? Well, so firstly, they're looking good in front of their mates because they've just got them a dinner at Hambleton Hall or whatever. But equally, as a thank you to the referee, we hosted the referral dinner. So we'd have a really lovely meal at like Hambleton Hall once a year as a thank you for the people that had referred us to people that became clients. We'd also invite some of our leading partners, so it's again a thank you to them for introducing us to their clients, but it's also an opportunity for those partners, which are typically accountants and solicitors, to come and meet some of our best clients. So they're really happy with that as well. So again, you've got to be thinking about what's in it for them, as in the referee and the referrer. And then what events can you run that have them bringing people in? The golf was a brilliant one in that we'd always say bring a guest, because that's going to be your team. That was our excuse. Really what we wanted was them to bring somebody along that we hadn't met before that was a potential client. So that means 50% of our golf day was prospects. And occasionally they'd bring their son, and we're like, well, that's crap. I think you're not really playing the game as we, but you can't argue about that. But actually, it's really, really brilliant. And we would pick up a lot of clients on the back of a golf day. So the golf day would probably cost us 10 grand, but more often than not, we'd pick up 1 or 2 clients from it. So that meant that the golf day was free, and we've got happy clients, and we're building our community. And use the power of influence. If you don't know the 6 Principles of Influence by Dr. Cialdini, watch the Learning Lunch on the psychology of persuasion. Really brilliant book. It probably gets mentioned somewhere in almost every workshop because the principles are so brilliant.
And one of those is the gift, which is why it's still useful to give somebody else's book. It doesn't just have to be.
Absolutely. So the story that relates to this is the Christmas card, so as an experiment, they sent a Christmas card to a whole load of strangers, and they just put their address on the back and just said, hey, I hope you have a lovely Christmas. Thanks. Take care. Have a great year, Mick. And then wrote his address underneath. Something like 60% of the random strangers that got a Christmas card from a complete stranger sent a Christmas card back. They didn't know who it was, but it's the power of reciprocity, isn't it? You get given something, you're like, I feel compelled to give something back. And yeah, reciprocity is, yeah. So again, like automate the referral process. At this point, at this point in the client process, in the client journey, we sent them a copy of this book. At this point, we sent them a copy of this book. At this point, we sent them a copy of this book. And we said, this might actually be for your children. This one's for, the younger generation. But you're creating reciprocity. And then guess what? Maybe the next thing in the process after sending them a free book is, Oh, and by the way, if don't forget, we just wanted to let you know, remind you about the referral dinner. If you refer us to somebody, then we'll give you, and you've just created reciprocity, and you're now asking for referrals, and you're giving them a reason why it's good for them and the referee. Really, really powerful. And you could do that with tools like Kilu, giving them a free piece of technology that empowers them better to keep their digital life organized. Everyone here knows Kilu, probably except Chloe, maybe. I know we've spoken about it before, Wayne, and I've introduced it to the others before, but it's just another example of what you might give away to really create a value and differentiate yourself. And of course, when they're telling their friends about Kilu, oh my God, we just put all of our stuff into here. Oh, well, my financial advisor didn't do that. My accountant didn't do that. So you're now becoming talkable. And strategic gifting, we've just covered this in a bit of detail already. And then the final thing in this is just measuring it. You've just got to make sure you measure where every referral comes from, or actually where every lead comes from. Because we would do this and we'd look at it each year and we'd go, actually, okay, this year 25 of our leads came from accountants. Okay, so we need to meet more accountants, don't we? We need to, because that's really working well for us. In that year, our client process worked better. We got 22 client referrals that year. So it's like, well, okay, right. That's probably the year after we made a significant change to our referral process. But really, having an awareness of what's going on is powerful. So that's a genuine year. I don't know which year it was. So accountants and clients were the main sources. Seminars were working for us. What's that one? Adverts. But yeah, can't work out which ones. Oh, so social media was the worst, and estate agents were almost as bad.
Yeah,
but then we actually did have a mortgage business, but none of us ever talked about it. So that was probably a reflection on that. So if you want to build out your referral process, the referral revolution is the tool to go back to this year. And if you think that's a key thing for this year, it's really worth putting some thought into what that is. Brevo is the email management system that we use. Yeah. Next stage is to nurture. And one of the ways that you can nurture prospects and give them the power to move forward is by reversing the risk. So we did the risk reversal revolution. And if you remember, there's 8 principles around which you can reverse the risk. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to give them an offer that they feel stupid not to accept. Like, this financial plan is going to cost you £3,000. But if for any reason you're not happy with it, no questions asked, we'll give you a full refund. And like, well, why wouldn't I do that? If it's worth £3,000, I keep it and I'm happy. If it's not worth £3,000, I get my £3,000 back. Why wouldn't you do that? So different types of risk reversals, lifetime guarantee. So like Osprey bags, if you remember, amazing that they give a lifetime guarantee on their bags. And you can, and there's been some famous cases of people coming back to them like 40 years later going, the bag's a bit knackered, and they just repair it. I mean, it's incredible, but great PR. Then there's the free trial. You might want to introduce a free trial to your business of one form or another. Classic example of that is Warby Parker. You can try on the glasses at home, kind of see if they feel right, and then decide whether you keep them or not. There's the warranty. So when electric cars were first introduced, the biggest worry that everyone had was, is the battery going to last? Is it going to be like my phone and 2 years later it's running on like 25% of the previous power? So we'll give an 8-year warranty on the battery. Nobody worries about the battery because they've got an 8-year warranty and they never plan to own a car for more than 8 years. Next one is no penalty. So no penalty cancellation. So the examples of that are like Now TV or Naked Wines, which if you ever order from Naked Wines, they somehow manage to hoodwink you into wine turning up forevermore until you cancel it. But cancel any time where you can just start, and then any time you can cancel. That's another form of risk reversal. Satisfaction guarantee. So the example of that we used was the Casper mattresses. You can try it and you get a 100-night trial. And if you're not happy, no questions asked. Again, we'll have it back. Price match. Obviously, the John Lewis example of that is the greatest example. How can you never knowingly undersold brackets? Lots of exclusions nowadays because they're so scared of it. But yeah, but they are still sort of talking about it. But again, price match guarantees if it's a good fit for your business. For me, the best one was always for efficient portfolio was the money back guarantee. And the same with Trusted Team. If you come to a Trusted Team workshop, if you come to that, you sign up to the Trusted Team, you come to your first workshop, you're not completely happy, no questions asked, we'll give you your money back. And so that's kind of the same with the efficient portfolio plan. Zappos, the shoe company, had a 365-day return policy. I mean, that seems ridiculous. Obviously, they had to be in like unworn, but it totally, if you're going to go beyond 14 days, it doesn't really matter. Well, yeah, except it totally removes that pressure of, oh, I've got to try them on. I've got to get them. I've got to make a decision now. Whereas you're like, well, yeah, actually, and if you're going to make it 30 days, let's be honest, it's either going to be, I mean, it's not really a benefit, except it just sounds good and it's talkable, isn't it? So you're removing the risk. Interestingly, Zappos also did this for their employees. So they, after the new employee had worked for Zappos for a month, they said, right, we will now pay you $2,000 to leave. Anyone that accepted the $2,000 they knew was not the right fit for their business. It's a brave move, by the way. But
imagine the churn.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Yeah. So, but the point is that business needs to be compelling enough that everyone goes, I don't want the $2,000 because this opportunity is way better than $2,000. So really compelling. Like I said, the money back guarantee on the efficient financial plan we would do, and then a performance guarantee. Actually, that's not a performance guarantee because I've just changed the slide. But the performance guarantee might be, we're going to increase your, like Nitesh, you might have, we're going to increase your traffic by this, or you don't pay, or we continue to, and it might be, or we continue to work for you until we hit that target. So be careful about giving full refunds 12 months down the line if you don't hit a target, because if the world changes, suddenly you might find yourself like in the crap. Whereas saying, well, look, we'll continue to work for you until we hit that target. If we don't hit it in a year, we'll continue to do this until that time is actually a better way of doing it, I think. On the plan fee, but not on the implementation fees.
So by plan fee, you mean present the suitability report?
Well, no. So for us, we had a financial plan, which was a strategic document, cash flow forecasting, all that sort of stuff. And we would do that before they, that was kind of the advice piece. And then after they decided which piece of advice they wanted to follow, we'd do a suitability report, which was very much a compliance-y tick box. So we would sell the plan for £3,000. They don't pay for the suitability letter because nobody ever wants one. It's a regulatory thing, isn't it? So we would sell the plan for £2,000-3,000. We'd offer them 100% money back guarantee on that, so that if for any reason they're not happy, no questions asked. And usually, like one person a year would take us up on that. I think that's just Chris dialing in. Thank you, Chris. I'm just going to finish off in 2 minutes, and then I'll come join you. So that's how we would do that, and then
I'll just give this to you quickly. If you like it, then we move forward.
Correct. So because people value what they pay for. But that's a separate conversation, really. But within this fee, you can obviously need to protect yourself if you're going to give guarantees. You want to protect yourself with pre-qualification. So that's things like minimum commitment requirements, client screening processes. You might only offer that guarantee to specific industries. You might have to have a proof of concept phase with a client. You might need to some financial checks before they qualify for a particular guarantee. And then again, afterwards, you want to protect yourself from people just asking for a refund. So you might want them to, like, for example, if we gave you all coaching and said, right, we'll guarantee this performance or this outcome, and you go, well, okay, I'm expecting a full refund. I haven't done any of the things that you told me to, Charlie, but I want a full refund. You go, well, that's not we need evidence that you've actually implemented what we've told you to do. You're not going to just magically happen by sitting on a seat in the hub and spoke. Yeah, you might want progress reports. You might want regular check-ins. You might want post-training assessments. You might want a client feedback loop. There's different ways you can do that. And the way, if you kind of want to explore the 8 principles of risk reversal, the tool to go back to is the risk reversal revolution.
Efficiency is really quick to talk about. How can we make our whole marketing process more efficient. Well, there's two really easy ways to do it. The first is the power of AI. We've obviously given you a webinar and a course on how you can use AI to boost your marketing. And so AI is definitely one of the ways to make the whole thing more efficient. The other way, Bhavesh has almost got to the point of completing, which is to write a business book. Like, honestly, so many things stem out of a business book. It is really, really powerful. I just can't tell you how brilliant a business.
Sorry, what was
is.
efficiency?
Efficiency, yes. Efficiency.
Do you think at some point, so I was thinking this today, because it's now a lot easier to write a book, and I mean that as in, like, you could just write everything if you wanted to on something like ChatGPT. You could have no experience, you could be quite shit at your job. All of these books are going out now. Like, at what point is there going to be a point of, like, actually, do we trust any of these speakers?
2026, get on with it.
Because, yeah.
I mean, you're right, at some point, possibly. Is it now? No.
Well, yeah.
And do you know what? So Dream Retirement, I started writing in 2012, finished it in 2015. Already by that point, I was thinking, well, everyone seems to have a book now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you buy a red Tesla and suddenly everyone's driving a red Tesla. You know, that's the whole, but actually, still 10 years later, it's still incredibly valuable. And to most people are not using ChatGPT to write a book. So
And even I've been using ChatGPT. It's not easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
you still have to work.
But
It's
it's
still your product.
Yeah,
Isn't
it's not
it?
easy.
George, I can't see somewhere in between both of AI and.
Well, she created Clio, which her approach to it, which I quite like. And if you're coming at it from a complete blank canvas, so her approach is that you speak your book into the technology. It basically turns your transcription into the chapters, and then they have a human to finish off the last 10%. That is an alternative if you want a different human.
So for me, I just want to, help the group there. So I have my book. Do you think I should just go down the Quillbot route to normalize it in some shape or form, and then get someone to proofread it using clear books? What would you think the best approach for me now is?
I
To get
think
that finished article ready to print. I mean, it's 90% there. I just need that last 10% really.
so. The publisher of the Dream Retirement said, procrastination is a fear of starting, perfectionism is a fear of finishing. The most important use of that book at this stage is to get it out there.
Yeah, and then make a version.
It's never going to be perfect. So I had a guy in a few days ago who's going to be a future guest on the podcast, amazing trackside, this world champion. For his age, he set the world record for the amount of distance cycles on a velodrome in an hour. And but he said, and he had exactly the same problem. He'd finished writing the book, and then he was rereading over Christmas, going, "Oh my God!" Now, by the time because it's taken a year to write, by the time he then is reviewing it, he's not happy because his thought process has changed, and now he wants to rewrite it. You're like, you've just got to have a line in the sand, and you go, "It's good enough. It's 80% there." Personally, I would probably say for version 1, just get it out there. If you then want to pay somebody to critique it, because it's really easy once it's online to just amend the copy to version 2. Nobody knows that you've got 2 different versions of the book.
Okay.
Get it out there. Honestly, I think.
Forget even using Quillbot, just get it out.
I think I'd probably use Quillbot because it would make
just
sense.
copy and paste and looking at
Yeah.
changes that I might do. Quillbot is just
It's basically an AI tool to humanize the writing. So to try and take away the sort of AI written principles.
Are you publishing through Amazon?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I need to.
Amazon's
My next question.
so that would be the way that we
time
would do it.
Yeah.
Amazon's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
And like, so for example, with this workshop that we did last week, we wanted to send 60 copies to the attendees. We can just go in, order 60 author copies at author's price. I mean, it's amazing that founders are paying for them, but and they're doing all the logistics, they're printing it, they're posting it. All we've done is just gone on and placed the order. It's really, really simple. So yeah, really, really good. And like, as soon as I change my thinking, instead of going, "Oh God, now we need version 3 of the book," I just go in, change, right. So we now have virtual Charlie, which I've shared with you, where you can chat to Charlie on the phone or in text.
Speaking to me this morning on the way in.
Excellent. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back into entrepreneurial happiness and say, if you want to discuss this with Virtual Charlie, here's a couple of questions you might want to ask. Here's the link. So then they can go on and say, they can actually start having a conversation with an AI bot that's filled with mine up. So we can just go in, add that, and nobody will know that already has version 2.0 of entrepreneurial happiness. Now we changed it from version 1 to version 2 because that is a very big change. Lots of things changed. I sold a efficient portfolio and set up this, but for minor tweaks like that, you can just revisit it.
And what did you mentioned about the cover, the actual book cover, and you were speaking to, I can't remember the exact story, but getting your picture on there makes a big difference. What was your thoughts around?
The advice I got was, for your first book, put your picture on the cover. As cringy as it is, it positions you as the expert. And ultimately that book's sole purpose is about positioning you as the expert. And if that makes you the expert, you should do it. It's going to probably mean it's a less saleable book, but it's a more powerful book if you're giving it away to your ideal clients. So, and worst case scenario, if not on the cover, then certainly inside the cover.
Okay.
I'm going to make that point that actually, what is the point of this book? It's not really to get people to read it, is it? Just position. So who cares if it's not perfect, right? Because nobody's going to read it cover to cover. If you've got that, I like that. What chapter summaries?
Chapter summaries.
If those are good enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. 50% of the people will only read the chapter summaries.
Yeah. If that.
Well, yeah, I mean, most of them will flip through, and if they see the chapter summary, they'll go, oh, great, I can read that. And then they might flip, they might read the chapter summary of 4 or 5 chapters and go, actually, that's going to be a really useful, I will go and read that. But the point of a book is it's your best ever business card, because nobody ever throws them away. I've got books sitting up there on my shelves that somebody sent to me, that's given to me. Some of them I don't even know I can't even remember where they came from. They're still sitting on my shelf because there's something inherent. We're taught in school, don't damage books, don't fold over the pages and don't do this. And you're like, I can't throw them away. I never throw away a book. I don't think I've ever done it in my life. It still sits there. So if one of them was about, it's about tax credits. It's suddenly, if I needed to do a thing about tax credits, the first place I would go is, I've got a book on my shelf about tax credits. I don't know who gave it to me, but by the time I picked up the book, I can remember who gave it to me. So it's really fun. Okay, so to finish this piece off, because I'm going to again run out of time today, which seems to be all the way that this content works. So the last piece is about transformation, the transformation we make of the client. And I will never forget when we were looking for a new marketing agency to help us at Efficient Portfolio. We sat down with 3 leading marketing agencies. One was a nationally recognized firm, one that was a regionally recognized firm, and one was a firm in Oakham. And at the end of this meeting for each of these firms, I had absolutely no clue how they were going to help me. They'd talked all of this great stuff and they'd picked themselves up about what a brilliant firm they were. But the terms of, okay, so what's the next step after this meeting? And what's the step after that? And how do you get me from my current threats to eliminating my threats and achieving my opportunities? Not one of them gave me a transformation journey. And that is really what we absolutely must do. And that's what we were talking about with, so that is the phenomenal process. Actually, I wish I'd named it something else because it should be about the journey. It's not the phenomenal process. But I named that quite a long time ago. And so it's about taking them on a journey from where they are at the moment with all of their worries and concerns. And it's about showing them how you are going to take them towards maximizing their opportunities and eliminating those worries and concerns. And that's all the phenomenal process is. It's that transformational journey. The Efficient Portfolio one was here. And it comes back to, and I'll come back to the naming principle in a minute. But, we free call to basically make some financial breakthroughs, understand what's important to them on the call. Exploration meeting, which is what I'll send you the details for. That's where we did the Kinder questions. The Efficient Financial Plan, that's what we charged $3,000 for and had a 100% money back guarantee. The planning meeting, not the greatest of names because I named these. The last thing I named on this actually was the Progressive Review Program, which is probably why it's the best name on there. because it was all about, like, actually, how do we continue to make your financial plan better and better year after year? And so the progressive review program is probably well, that and the financial breakthrough call were the things we named most recently. But even then, we probably named those 12, 14 years ago. But this is now, if you want an efficient wealth management process, well, you can't have it now because the company's closed, but if you wanted it at the time, there was only one company in the country that could give it to you. Now, is it that different to lots of other financial planning processes? No. Does the client know that? No. If they want that journey, then they know that we're the only people that can deliver it to them based on the, and that's why I would say having unique naming is really important. And like the reason that Steve Jobs named Apple was because rumored, it's not actually really known, but it's rumored or thought because at the time when Apple were coming to market, computers were seen as really complicated. And he wanted something that was really simple and accessible to everyone. And the name Apple was, and it's not like a great name in the sense of that it tells you what they do, but it simplified it. It made it seem simple. And the name really should be in the context of what's in it for them. You know, what is in it for them? When they look at it, they go, oh, well, that's what I want. I need that. You know, the ideal client magnet. My hope, we're going to do a webinar based on this topic. And my hope is that our ideal clients, entrepreneurs that are looking to grow their business, are going to see that and go, I need an ideal client magnet. I need something that's magnetizing and bringing my ideal clients directly to me. So that's why we've named it the ideal client magnet, because that's what speaks to people that are trying to grow their business and improve their marketing. So if you want to dive into that bit more deeply, I would go back to the phenomenal process producer and really kind of, and to be honest, in this, the only reason we didn't used to update our efficient portfolio phenomenal process more often is because we had lots of physical brochures, really expensive brochures printed out with it all on. And whereas nowadays, I suspect you probably have less of that. And therefore, actually, to improve a phenomenal process and get the names even better is probably more easier to do. So probably worth revisiting. So that's the ideal client magnet. 6 steps to attracting more clients and growing your business through that. Why have I missed out? Well, I've got one. Somehow there's like, hang on. There's one more principle on the transformation, and that is partnerships. So I've told the story historically about when they designed Pixar, trying to bring lots of different people together all in one central atrium. When they designed Pixar offices, I'm not going to tell the full story now, but building partnerships with firms that have the same ideal clients as you, but that aren't in competition with you is incredibly powerful. We were interviewing a guy called Ed Chang, who runs a sportswear apparel company. And he was brilliant at highlighting, you know, we're doing events from these shops because, you know, we know our ideal clients hang out in those shops and they, you know, so it's good for us, it's good for them. This is an example of a firm of accountants that we teamed up with an efficient portfolio. We got, in the first 18 months of working with them, we generated £288,000 worth of fees off the clients that they introduced to us. They sent us 30 clients, and we obviously had less marketing to spend as well, so way more profitable. We split those fees with them, so they got 25% of those fees. So on top of the 288, they got 72,000. All they did was introduce their existing clients to us. They also got 8 referrals back from us. They increased their accountancy fees for the clients they introduced to us because of the work we were all doing together, and their clients were getting a better service. So it's really powerful, and you need to find, you know, in the financial planning world, there was the solicitor, accountant, financial planner that were that, and it's actually where the name The Trusted Team was born out of. And so when everyone's working together, the client's happier, the client's getting a better service, but actually all of those trusted team partners are referring clients to each other. It's a much better way of working.
Check in my book.
Excellent. And so how can you build those partnerships better? Well, having a partnership pack so that every time you're sitting down with a partner, a potential future partner, you've got a set presentation that you can lead them through. You'll look way more professional. Like almost no accountant solicitor I ever spoke to came into that meeting with me with a professional presentation as to why we should work with them. So I'd let them speak, and then I go, right, let me show you why we want to work, why this works well with you guys. And they're all like, oh, actually put some preparation into this. Of course, we use that presentation literally hundreds of times over. And having a phenomenal process makes it much easier to explain to those professional partners how we work. Because if they can understand it, then they can explain it to their clients. Making it really easy for them to look good in front of their clients. So we would give them copies of our books to send to their clients. Makes them look good in front of their clients, as I said earlier, and they're doing our marketing for us. We also did a video so that if they wanted to introduce us to a firm, as one of their clients, they could just send that video and say, this is why I'm introducing you to Charlie in the Efficient Portfolio. And it was basically this is what we're all about type of thing. Use strategic gifting again, we've touched on that. One of the things to make the partnership work really well is to give something away. Give something, so you make them look good in front of their clients, but also create reciprocity by giving them something from your business to A, demonstrate how good you are, and B, again, create reciprocity. So we would say to the accountant or solicitor, you can give a first meeting with us worth £297 to any of your clients. Because they're a client of yours, they get to meet us for a full exploration meeting at no cost. But as the partner in a firm that we're potentially going to work closely with, we'll give you a free plan worth £3,000. Well, accountants, solicitors love things that are free, so they're like, right, wow, I'm getting £3,000 worth of planning fees. Two things happen. One is you do an amazing demonstration of the quality of the work you're going to deliver for their clients. Secondly is, and with that, they see a cash flow forecast of themselves, and therefore they understand it better and they can explain it to their clients. Second thing, and we would do, so we give them that for free, but we would also say, if you want to implement the advice, we still have to charge you for that because of the regulatory fees that we pay and all that sort of stuff. Probably at least 50%, if not more, said, this is way better than I'm getting from my own financial advisor. I'll follow that advice. And therefore they become a client of the firm, which means you're getting your updates, etc., which means that they're much better and much more likely to refer. And when they do, they say, oh, by the way, I'm a client of Charlie. The client's like, well, in that case, why wouldn't I? Why would I not do that? So they're getting something free, and you demonstrate your worth. And once they're a client, they're more likely to recommend as well.
So that's great. I mean, we can do that. But I mean, I guess my question is, how do I get that foot in the door with an accountant? There's an accountant on church charge.
Well, firstly, I'd just approach them and say, look, we want to have a conversation about whether we can introduce our clients to you and vice versa. Do you want to sit down over a coffee? I then, in the partnership playbook, actually give you a structure for that meeting. Start the meeting with a question about that comes out of that conversation between Sir Alex Ferguson and Gaza. So that whole getting to really what's important to that person. And then what you do from knowing what their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are, you then go, oh, okay, so now that I understand what you're up to, let me show you what we are. And basically you're explaining how what you have is going to solve his, help him maximize his strengths, eliminate his weaknesses, see the opportunities and eliminate threats. So you kind of link the whole thing back to each other. But that structure is again in the partnership playbook. And then what you also want to do is think about how you can introduce them to your network, because that will tend to value that as much as being paid a share of your fees. So that's the partnership playbook. And that brings us to a summarized conclusion of all of the marketing pieces we've done in the Trusted Team so far under the Ideal Client Magnet.